Good evening to everyone who is joining us tonight. Welcome to our third live session from Equilibrium Coaching Company. We welcome you all, and we hope this space will be one of great learning. My name is Paula. I am a psychologist, and I will be your host during this valuable session. We are truly delighted that you are connected and that people from different parts of the world will be joining us. I warmly invite each and every one of you to actively write in the chat, to truly interact by letting us all know precisely where you are currently connecting from. And if you so wish, to thoughtfully start submitting your pertinent questions so that we can comprehensively answer them at the very end of this engaging session, depending, of course, on the fascinating topics our esteemed speakers will be presenting and thoroughly discussing tonight. I would now like to officially begin this important session, but certainly not before sincerely congratulating all of our dedicated and exceptional teachers. Let us remember that tomorrow is Teachers' Day. I want to extend my heartfelt congratulations to each and every one of them. I know that many teachers are joining us right now in this live session. Teacher, for you from Equilibrium Coaching Company, thank you for sowing with love, for teaching with your soul, and for believing in the power to transform lives. Happy Teachers' Day. I didn't want to let this very special day for us go by without mention. For obviously acquaintances who are also teachers, for the Equilibrium team who also have their colleagues. I wish each and every one of you many congratulations. Remember that you are an inspiration. We honor you with much affection. Well, let's enthusiastically commence this live session because we have meticulously prepared a truly exceptional and thoughtfully designed space, specifically crafted to genuinely provide you with highly practical, profoundly real, and truly sustainable tools and effective strategies to diligently build positive habits that comprehensively promote a truly healthy and balanced lifestyle, seamlessly integrating beneficial physical movement, effective emotional management, and overall holistic well-being and balance. But before we truly begin our important discussion, I genuinely want to tell you, or perhaps more accurately, to gently remind you, that in the immediately preceding live session, we formally awarded a dedicated professional who has been consistently following us during the course of the last 2 consecutive live sessions. We were pleased to award this professional who meticulously filled out the attendance form or the designated link. We awarded them with a course in partnership with the Pontificia Bolivariana University, and we want to extend our congratulations to this professional. I hope they can truly make the most of this training opportunity. Let's give our congratulations to Sandra Rocio Otero Rodriguez. She shared a very special video with us, and we're going to listen to her now.
Hello everyone, my name is Sandra Rocio Otero Rodriguez, and I am the winner of one of the courses offered by Equilibrium Coach Company. I know that this course will provide me with tools to grow both professionally and in my career. Additionally, it will help me personally as well. I invite all of you to join the talks offered by the company because I know they will help us and provide us with tools for our professional lives. Thank you.
Sandra, thank you so much for trusting us, and we hope this course will truly be very useful for you. This course, God willing, will begin in the 2nd semester of the year 2025. Well, I want to start this important segment by reminding our valued audience exactly who we are, and more specifically, who Equilibrium Coaching Company truly is. We are a dedicated and professional organization committed to providing exceptional coaching services to help individuals and businesses achieve their full potential and find balance in their lives. Let's remember that we are a company focused on the comprehensive development of professionals, educators, and organizations through national coaching processes, wellness programs, conscious leadership, and personal growth. This philosophy centers on harmonizing mind, body, and spirit to bring out the full potential of every human being. Tonight, which is a very special night, every live session with Equilibrium Coaching Company is special. I want to remind you who the professionals are that will be joining us this evening, the team from Equilibrium Coaching Company. I'm going to remind you a little about their biodata so that those of you who are connecting with us for the first time can get to know them. Edgar Ramirez is a life coach, speaker, and founder of Equilibrium Coaching Company. He has over 25 years of experience in the educational field and a solid background in leadership, neurolinguistic programming, and socio-emotional learning. He is the creator of the Equilibrium Formula and the method and tools that bring balance to people's lives, focusing on harmony between mind, body, and spirit. His work is focused on supporting those who wish to reconnect with their purpose, regain their energy, and achieve success through a full and conscious life. And we have Dr. Jairo Flores, educator, researcher, certified coach with over 25 years of experience. He holds a doctorate in physical activity and sports sciences, graduating summa cum laude, and has an exemplary track record in university training programs in Colombia. In his work, he combines a pedagogical approach, spiritual growth, and professional excellence. And just to remind you a little, his bio data, I want to start our topic of the day. Small changes, big results. Habits that transform your life. Today, we will talk about how small habits sustained over time can lead to major transformations. We will discuss movement as medicine for life. It's about taking care of ourselves physically. So get ready to be inspired to learn and above all, to take the first step toward a healthier and more mindful version of yourself. But I want to remind you in this space, at this moment, to start following us on our social media. I'm going to share with you, just for a brief moment, our social media accounts so you can follow us. There we share videos and very, very interesting information to help transform your life, as well as updates on upcoming live sessions we'll be hosting. It's important that you follow us and engage with us. And I also want to take this important opportunity to remind all of you about our comprehensive and informative website, so you can conveniently visit it at your leisure and thoroughly learn about the wide range of valuable services and beneficial programs we proudly offer to our community. Well, with that, I'd like to formally begin with the introduction of our esteemed professionals. Let's warmly welcome the highly respected Dr. Jairo and the equally distinguished Edgar Ramirez.
Hello, Paula. Very good evening. Good evening, Paula.
Very good evening, Paula.
How are you all doing? Hello, Edgar. Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Jairo, and a very good evening to all the audience who are joining us right now. We'd like to remind you to please interact with us in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from, where you're watching us from, and any questions you may have during this live session. Please let us know, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions. So, how are you all doing tonight?
That's truly excellent.
Of course, but let's get this truly engaging live session started right now, because I want to begin with a very interesting and thought-provoking question for the esteemed Dr. Jairo. Jairo, please tell me, in your expert opinion, what exactly is a habit?
Hello, Paula. Hello, Edgar. A very good evening to everyone who is joining us. Yes, let's start right away with this talk by saying that a habit, according to several authors, I'll just mention only two, from the most general perspective. For Susan David, she defines a habit as an action that is automatically triggered in response to certain cues from our environment or context, right? And that have become associated with carrying out that action. A habit, at least to make it clearer, can be something many people do when they enter their homes, like taking off their shoes before going inside, washing their hands before every meal, or brushing their teeth. All those consistent kinds of behaviors or repetitive patterns are precisely what truly characterize a deeply ingrained habit, and they undoubtedly become an integral and fundamental part of our very own personality. Stephen Covey, a renowned author and expert on personal effectiveness, defines a habit as those consistent and often unconscious patterns of thought and action that, in a very significant way, become deeply ingrained and almost automatic behaviors because they are constant, regularly repeated, and an essential part of our daily lives, and they profoundly express our fundamental character and ultimately generate our overall effectiveness, or conversely, our ineffectiveness. That's from the most comprehensive and general point of view of what we could accurately define as a deeply ingrained habit. But since I really like to talk about the area in which I work, Aside from coaching, which is physical education, sports, and physical exercise, for several authors from a sports perspective, they define a habit as the consolidation of a constant practice through motor repetition and a focus on progressive improvement. So notice that here there's a subtle yet important distinction, though, because it's primarily aimed at fostering progressive and continuous improvement in our behaviors or actions within ourselves as human beings, right? And there's already a definition by Domingo Blasquez Sanchez, who is a Spanish authority in the field of physical exercise and physical education, also internationally recognized, who defines a motor habit as a motor behavior acquired through repetition. And if we bring that into our daily lives, it turns out that many of our behaviors are done through unconscious repetition, right? This kind of repetition allows us to perform actions with precision. But what's most interesting is that starting from that precision, there's an economy of effort so that we can carry out activities more quickly and almost mechanically, right? I don't want to bore you with so much bibliography and so much theoretical focus. And right now, at this moment, I would like to ask Edgar, who is our colleague, what strategies could we use then to be able to develop this kind of actions or to consolidate those things that seem conscious, but at a certain point become unconscious, and those unconscious patterns generate and become part of our personality? Edgar, good evening, and I'll leave it there.
Well, Dr. Jairo, thank you very much for that spectacular introduction, so concise and so clear about what a habit is. Yes, you said it perfectly. A habit, the idea is to turn that action, right, into a behavior, into an action that is basically involuntary, that we've already gotten used to doing, and we don't have to think twice about doing it. And you've given a truly spectacular definition. How do we create those habits? I truly think that before we even begin to start talking about the process of creating new and beneficial habits, we absolutely have to start thinking and acknowledging that virtually everyone genuinely wants to see significant and positive changes in their own life, right? When we find ourselves, for example, in a significant change program, when we are acutely aware that we genuinely need that transformative change in our lives, we invariably start contemplating a specific goal. However, the profound frustration often comes precisely when we do not readily find the necessary and appropriate tools to effectively reach that desired goal. That indeed is precisely where the crucial adjustment and refinement of our daily habits truly comes into play, isn't it? Now, merely saying things is undeniably easy. Actually and consistently doing them is what truly and significantly complicates the entire process. We want to say, well, I want to make a change. I want to eat healthier, so I'm going to eat salads. Perfect, you're saying it perfectly. But as a popular Colombian saying goes, there's a long way from saying to doing. And that's exactly where we run into difficulty, right? We might confidently say, no, I genuinely want to read 10 comprehensive books a month, or perhaps even 10 insightful books every 6 months. We can certainly articulate such a goal, but then what practical steps could we undertake, or precisely how could we actually achieve that ambitious objective? So in order to make progress, we have to thoughtfully start with several foundational steps. First and foremost, it is absolutely crucial to be acutely aware that a new habit, especially a significant one, isn't magically formed overnight. Let me give you an example. If, for example, and excuse the redundancy, there's a pilot who is going to travel with his crew and passengers from Dallas to New York. Everything is ready, but 5 minutes before starting the trip, he decides to adjust the route by 2.5 degrees. The plane begins to take off, and no one is really going to feel that the plane is veering off course, right? It was only 2.5 degrees. But it turns out that the plane won't land in New York, but instead might end up landing in Washington, D.C. And here we ask ourselves, but exactly why does that change happen? Because over such a long trajectory, 2.5 degrees, which is something very small, ended up completely diverting the plane. The same thing happens with habits. Those small habits that we carry out, or that we start to change, or that we begin to implement each day will lead us to achieve that much desired goal. Now, if you say no, what happens is that I want to be in better shape, so I'm going to start running for 20 minutes. Perfect. If you run for 20 minutes tomorrow, the question would be, will your physical condition improve? Probably not. But if you start running 20 minutes every day, probably in a week, in 2 weeks, or in a month, you'll see real results. The exact same thing happens with, well, I truly want to lose some significant weight. Okay, perfect. You want to lose weight, and then you say, no, I'm never eating carbs again. I'm never drinking soda again. I'm never eating junk food again. and you might be able to do it for maybe 2 days. But if you don't implement a system that allows you to do it consistently, and as we said before, do it without having to think about it, that's where we're going to run into trouble. So we have to always keep in our minds that habits are fundamentally and essentially made up of four distinct and crucial elements, right? These four fundamental and crucial elements, according to the renowned author James Clear in his highly influential and best-selling book Atomic Habits, are primarily the cue, which is basically the initial trigger or the specific goal that we have in our minds and are striving to achieve. And I'm going to use concrete examples so that it might be easier to understand how we can start implementing those habits. We have the cue. Let's suppose the cue is to lose weight, right? Okay, the weight cue. So what comes next? The craving. Why do I want to lose weight? It turns out that I have a closet, a wardrobe, or a certain amount of clothes that I can't wear anymore because unfortunately they just don't fit me. On top of that, I get tired easily. And besides that, I have trouble sleeping and so on and so forth. So my desire is to chant this precisely to lose weight in order to start improving. Then comes the third element, which is the response, and that's the action you take or start to take precisely to turn that activity you're going to do into a habit. And finally, the reward, right? Four elements: the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. These are fundamental elements, and it's important to understand these four elements. Why? Because that way we truly internalize it and begin to create the necessary mechanisms. Now, what specific mechanisms could we precisely use to implement that habit? The very first thing we absolutely need is a clear cue. Isn't that right? A clear cue is important precisely to start implementing habits. And not just the cue, but we also need to have an action plan. Losing weight is our cue. We want to lose weight, but how are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? If we don't have that action plan that allows us to implement that habit, it's going to be very hard to get there. And we see this in all areas of our lives. We always want change, we always want to improve, but be careful with this. Let's not get obsessed with the end. Let's not get obsessed with the result. Let's focus on the process. It's precisely that process that will lead us to achieve that goal, right? Now, when we reach that goal, obviously we're going to feel a sense of satisfaction. And believe me, the habit will become something we do almost without thinking, and we'll feel pleasure from it. Dr. William G. Aldin says that more than 50% of the cortex, the surface of the brain, is dedicated to processing visual information. Pay attention to this. This makes vision the most stimulating sense in humans and the most likely to trigger a response. Therefore, visual cues are more likely to provoke a reaction than other types of signals. What is this trying to tell us? It's trying to tell us that in addition to that, within the action plan we designed to reach that goal, we need to rely on what? On the environment. If, for example, we truly want to learn to play the guitar, but the guitar is unfortunately stored away in the closet, the chances and the likelihood of us actually playing that guitar are either incredibly tiny or completely non-existent. Why is that the case? Simply because we are not exposed to that environment. But on the other hand, if we take the guitar and leave it next to the bed or put it in the living room somewhere we can see it, that will encourage us to think, hey, I need to play the guitar, right? So we need the environment to change our environment precisely to start developing that habit, which in this case, as I mentioned earlier, is learning to play the guitar. So we have the cue, we're modifying the environment, we have an action plan, but we also need the intention to implement it. What is the intention to implement it? It's precisely about specifying in that action plan the exact day and for how long we are going to carry out that action. It's easier to develop the habit if I say, I'm going to learn to play the guitar. I see the guitar, but I'm going to do it on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays after I get out of bed and have breakfast. So if you include that implementation intention, believe me, as you keep doing it, you'll be building that habit, right? It's not necessary to obsess too much over the goal, but rather to focus on the sustained system of change. Let me give you some tips specifically for building those good habits. So we were talking about the cue, we were talking about the craving, the response, the reward, we were talking about the environment, and we were talking specifically about the implementation intention, the action plan, right? Now, to facilitate the adoption of good habits, we have to try to make it obvious.